today's topic, of course, will be on 30 minutes to better change management in Remedy. So I have just 2 or 3 slides for a baseline, and then we will go right in the product. I think most of you know the last major functionality improvement that they made in Remedy Change was back in version 8. They finally brought email approvals, as an out-of-the-box function, which had been a customization that had been required before that. But since then, they haven't added a lot of new functionality because, of course, change management is pretty well dictated from an ISIL standpoint of what you're doing. But what they have tried to do is make it more user-friendly, easier to use, capturing better metrics about it and all. So if you think about the typical person in a Remedy environment, they're responsible for submitting and implementing those changes in the IT environment, but they aren't maybe in the change forms, the change management system itself on an everyday basis. So what we have traditionally found out there is that given the complexity of the old set of forms associated with change management and a ton of different tabs, and you have to know where to go to find templates and those types of things, it was kind of a pretty complex system to use, and as a result of that, you didn't always get changes that had captured the information correctly. And obviously on the right-hand side, as would be expected, you either then have changes that are done without all the information being available to do the risk assessments and all that for the change advisory board to look at. Sometimes there's a lot of redo work, or, heaven forbid, that worry about we made changes today. I wonder if we'll have incidents tomorrow because of the changes we pushed out. And obviously, the more correctly you can evaluate those changes with the proper information, the less likelihood you're going to have that to show. So what BMC has done is they've basically made it now a self-guided way of doing it. No longer do you have to know, I need to go here and then I need to go there. They're basically going to guide you through the process. For the traditionalists who are focused on nothing but change, they can always go directly to the form. You don't have to go through a tutorial. But you'll find that a large majority of the change managers, if you would, are going to probably use some of that new functionality. And, of course, most of you have heard of Smart IT with its much improved user interface and that type of thing. But, again, what we've done now, the new state is you got a very simplified change interface and basically a wizard to walk you through how to do those changes. And, again, as should be obvious, you're going to get a better user experience. You're going to get a much more highly correct change information so that the changes can be evaluated and proved, and hopefully that then would cut down on the number of changes causing future problems down the road. So that's what we're going to take a look at here in the next few minutes. So I'm going to minimize this screen and go over to the actual system itself. This is 9.1. I think most of you have probably seen this new interface, again, with Smart IT. Originally it came out with just incident management, and then they added in change, and then now they've added in knowledge and asset management. So everything today in Remedy can pretty much be done through this new Smart IT interface. So again, you can configure your dashboard to have the view you wanted. I've got changes up here since that's what we're concentrating in on today. And then, of course, I can go right to my console and actually look at my tickets. And, of course, I can filter those tickets down. Since this webinar is against change, I'm sitting here looking at my various changes. I'm looking at them color-coded by priority. Again, I can add any types of filters on this environment to make my console, my queue, if you would, look exactly how I want to do it. And as is prevalent in all of the Smart IT forms, you get your nice summaries up here and those types of displays there. But once you get ready to now create a change in here, you're going to see it's a completely different type of process. So let's create a new change request. And you'll see that it's going to say, well, hey, do you want to use a template number 1, or is this a recurring type of change in which so you would use a template? If not, you can always just do it from scratch. But regardless, it's going to walk you through what's required to do the change. So obviously, if you're in a multi-tenant environment, you'd have to get your company, and I'm logged in as Alan here doing that. And I'm going to actually, for the sake of the webinar, just go on and use an existing change template that we have out there. And as you can see here, of course, what that does is it automatically assigns your risk level. It automatically assigns the impact and the urgency. It's not going to show my affected services yet because I haven't associated any configuration items with it. What your summary description was, how's the change request going to be categorized? That's the value of doing it from a template. Again, if I wasn't using a template, it would just ask me to, okay, what type of change is this? It'd be a simple drop down. I'd pull from that in. But in this one, we'll just say we're going to use the template. So we'll merely come over and hit our continue mode here. And then if you think about it, there's a logical sequence you need to go through when doing a change management, right? I've got to identify what configuration items are going to be impacted by the change. I need to identify our dates that we're looking to do these changes. I need to either accept the templated risk profile or go in and ask the questions to help me generate the risk associated with this change. And then ultimately, there are any number of documents that might need to be created here. So in this case, we're doing a new drive here is really what this one was. So what we want to do now is go out and affect, well, what server are we doing this upgrade to, or what application? Again, any configuration item that might be applicable there. I'm going to be doing this to my Mailbox server, which happens to be my employee benefits application server, I know in my environment. So I'm going to go out and search my CI, just make sure that I did type in the name of that CI correctly to make sure that we're not getting any matches here. And if I do that CI, it clearly comes back and says, yeah, that's your Mailbox computer server. It's in the Boston Support Center. It's a Dell PowerEdge server. Yeah, I know that is the right one. So I'll now indicate that's my configuration item. And now it'll say, well, what exactly are we doing here? And again, this is just standard change management here, but are we doing an upgrade, a repair, a move, add, change? What is it that we're doing? In this case, since we did pick a template, obviously we're doing an upgrade to that particular server. So again, kind of follow the wizard if you would. So what's the next state of what I should be putting in relative to this change? Well, I need to pick appropriate date and time that we're going to do it. So I pull up my calendar here, and we're going to do it tomorrow is when we're going to schedule that. And we'll also, it's not going to take all that long. It'll also end tomorrow, probably take a couple of hours. So we'll come in here and change this to 2 o'clock a.m. Use my up buttons here. They like you to do it. Oh, sorry, hold on. That's good. Notice that it automatically comes in here to let me see if this potentially has a collision detection. And it says, hey, there will be a collision detection. So what this is implying is that CI that I'm affected, the change I'm now proposing to make has a potential conflict with something else that's already scheduled there. So I would want to go out and investigate what that was to determine, what I needed to do. And I can kind of see here on my calendar that there looks like a couple of change requests, one being a lot longer than the other one, that could impact that. So I may have to change that. I may have to look at it. But again, it alerts you to that. Again, that's been a standard change management feature within Remedy for some time. But then, of course, you would go in and identify, okay, well, what are your next steps? Now, since I'm using a template, it did automatically come in and assign the risk level to it. And depending on how you configure your Remedy system, you might not even give the ability to override this if it came from a template. But some companies do, because maybe there's something unique. I use the template because the tasks are the same, but maybe there's some other indication here. So if I wanted my agent, or if the agent wanted to go through and answer the series of weighted questions that we've configured, it can do that and then generate for you what is the risk level based on how the questions were answered, and then summing up the weighted averages of the different questions that were given there. So we'll let it default to what that risk level was. So we'll now go to our next step, and of course to really evaluate the changes here, there are lots of things you need to put in, right? Maybe there are change assessments that need to be part of this. Maybe there are risk assessment, other questions. Maybe there is my install plan, my backout plan. So any series of documents that I may want to do here, I can indicate, and then it will just give me an opportunity to obviously go out, grab those documents, make that part of it. Just doing a normal search for your document where you've got that in there to make that part of where that particular one is. Of course, I could add any series of notes in here as the change manager as we go along and indicate whether it's a public note or just to be used by the internal change management team that we've got here. And so we'll go out here and just find some little form somewhere that we can grab here, something simple here. We'll just grab that, stick it in there, so that we've got that. I think this was the risk assessment form is now being made a part of that document there. So we'll pop that back out. Oops, get this there. Cancel that. So as you go through it, then the other thing you're ready to do as you go through that, of course, here in your document side is to put in what those other ones would be, add any notes. Ultimately, you're ready to do that particular change here. I'm going to just kill that one since I don't actually have a good PDF or Word document to do there. And now I'm going to submit this change, and it will prompt me and say, well, we've already advised you that there's a potential collision. Do you want to actually go out and do an impact analysis? The impact being that, hey, these services might be affected if we take some of those down. Again, a feature that's been within Remedy Change Management for some time here. But it'll come out and do it, kind of let you know that we did do we got 2 alerts on collisions and impacts. We could research those. Of course, right now the change request is still in a draft mode. We haven't submitted it for approval to go through the normal approval processes. But here, of course, as the agent, I put in the main things, and since we used the template, we can see that the set of tasks, either individual task or group task, have been automatically assigned to it. But if I needed to add, a 5th task because of something about this, I could just click on my Add Task button, go out and look at whatever my pre-deformed tasks were. So go ahead and pull from my task templates that I've got if I wanted to, and we'll just, grab something out there to kind of show you how that's done. So that's a way of adding in another one. Of course, as most of you know, in Remedy, we have forever been able to sequence those tasks if there's some reason you wanted to do that, or indicate that maybe the first 2 can be done in parallel, but the 3rd one has to be done before number 4. All of that, of course, is controllable. This, in effect, is the replacement of the work log you're kind of seeing over on the right. And then, of course, as the change agent, really as a user of Smart IT, I have those other things where I could share comments, I could collaborate with another change agent or maybe your infrastructure analyst on this change that we're getting ready to do, and ultimately, record any of those activities that I have in there. And then ultimately what I'd want to do is once I was satisfied with this, I'd want to probably submit it that we're now pending approval out here, so request for authorization, and save that record, and then the normal Remedy flow takes place. So functionally, you're not doing a lot different than perhaps you're doing today in 7.604 or 8.0 or whatever. But hopefully what you get out of that is just how much simpler it is to have the system drive you through the process of collecting that data and being able to share it. And then, of course, the other thing that you get now in version 9 of Change Management, Smart IT, and so forth, is now the reporting around these change metrics are highly improved. I think most of you know from probably former webinars we've done, of course, they introduced Smart Reporting in version 9, which now just gives you, tons of pre-built, very trending, designed dashboards around what you're trying to do. So since we're concentrating on change, we'll just go grab my change dashboard that I've got over here, And, it's going to give you the typical types of things that you would expect here, looking at analysis, looking at changes over time. Of course, I can expand or I can contract this timeline that I'm looking at here. Changes by service, changes for my different types of groups that we've got out there. This is the underlying raw data that makes up the changes. Of course, I've also got the ability, of course, to look at all of the out-of-the-box change reports that are out there. So if we go under BMC Remedy Operational Reporting, we could go into Change Management, and you can see that we pre-configured the typical types of reports that someone would be interested in: changes by service, changes by status, by class type, bring up a change dashboard, do incident caused by changes, hopefully using this new smart interface and making sure that we capture the data correctly. We'll have very few of those showing up in a report, but it's the combination of the smart IT with the guided change management and then the new, much more robust reporting that you get through this type of thing that really kind of rounds out that whole change process. And, of course, as you probably, again, have seen in there, you can go in and create your own reports and just drag and drop the fields from the change-related forms and create the report in a truly, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get type of reporting. I think most of you also know you can now build storyboards, and just think of that as it's a built-in PowerPoint into our reporting system out here. So we're going to just create one that we've got out there. I just gave it my initials to start, if I can get my thing to do it. So that'll be the name of the new storyboard. And so what we want to do now is create our first slide that we're going to have here. And so we're going to just use a content slide that we've got there. Again, we're going to give the slide a particular name there. And then what we can do is go over and grab any of those reports we've already configured around change management or dashboards, drag it right into the storyboard, and then just that easily you can really create a custom presentation, maybe for the change advisory board. Create a storyboard that has all of the just completed changes for the past week, the upcoming changes for the next 2 weeks, each one of those being a separate report in your actual storyboard. And again, I think it's the leveraging of what they've done, smart IT change management, now with the smart reporting through the building of the storyboards, as well as leveraging all of the out-of-the-box reports that kind of gives you what you want. So that's kind of the summary of better change management using Remedy ITSM version 9.1 with, again, the two critical components of that was Smart IT using the Remedy Change console and the leveraging of the new Remedy Smart Reporting feature that we have out there. So hopefully that's something that can be useful for you guys. And then what we'll do, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact us. This is our normal contact stuff, our web address. Send us an email, give us a call.